Hello there, welcome into the show. It's coming down to crunch time in the race for the Premier League title. The heavy hitters are here with me, Steve Nicol and Craig Burley.
You call me a hitter?
In the studio. I'm calling you a hitter. That's what I'm calling you. We have Stuart Robson also on board, waiting in the wings ahead of the big tilt this Sunday, no doubt about it. First against third, Liverpool and Chelsea at Anfield. Liverpool, remember, with 5 games to go. City with 6. And that 2-point advantage they have heading into the weekend. Perhaps more of the talking points in this clash revolve around Chelsea, guys. Let's start with that. And what sort of team might Maurizio Sarri put out when you look at the last 2 games, the win against West Ham and the win in the Europa League in Prague? Many, many differences, particularly amongst the attacking players. In fact, only Kepa, Rodrigo, Jorginho and Azpilicueta played in both games. So what does Sarri do against Liverpool at Anfield, Craig?
Well, his best team.
Which is, but what is his best team?
Well, his best team at the moment would be more akin to the one that finished or played in the West Ham game, which would be not Kovacic or Barkley, but would be Ruben Loftus-Cheek, which probably should have happened a while ago. And also Callum Hudson-Odoi on one side and Eden Hazard on the other. I think, you know, Higuain will probably play. But more importantly, those two, Hudson-Odoi and Loftus-Cheek, because they perform well. Perform well in the Premier League. They've performed well previously in the Europa League. And I would be surprised if that wasn't it. But I don't think it's the greatest worry for Liverpool who he plays, to be honest with you. But I would imagine that's the team he's going to go with.
What are your thoughts, Steve?
I would 100% think it's the team that played at West Ham. And quite frankly, the introduction of Hudson-Odoi and Loftus-Cheek has given this team a breath of fresh air. You know, thinking of Chelsea 3-4 weeks ago, it was, how are they going to get in the top 4? Now you see it's a completely different Chelsea. It's a vibrant Chelsea. And I didn't think it was possible because Hazard's been Chelsea's best player all season. But he's actually looks as though he's taken a step up because of the introduction of these 2 young guys. They've just brought a new life to Chelsea.
Yeah. And he's flipped it around, hasn't he, Sarri? Those 2 were playing in the Europa League just 2-3 weeks ago and not playing in the Premier League.
Yeah, and Hudson-Odoi gave him some natural width and he held his... OK, it was against West Ham, who are a decent side, but no, they're kind of, you know, mid-table. He held his width and that just allowed... that allowed Chelsea to stretch, particularly in the first half, just stretch the game a little bit. And obviously, Ruben Loftus-Cheek's a good runner from midfield, so that distracts people as well, and that creates spaces. And Eden Hazard was able to do some magical things in that first 45 at Stamford Bridge. But the one thing I thought about Chelsea in the first half, for a change this season, they passed the ball with a purpose. Yeah. You know, in the first 45 at home, it wasn't against West Ham. It wasn't just passing it, the little sideways, a little back. They actually passed it quicker and they passed it forward more often with a bit of a purpose. And I think that was beneficial to the team as well.
Robbo, what do you make of Chelsea at the moment? Because, let's face it, they had an awful January, didn't they? But since then, only 1 loss in 12 in all competitions. But are you suspicious of this Chelsea revival at all?
No, I think it is a revival. It was only 2 or 3 games ago when they were 1-0 down at Cardiff and the crowd was singing, "We want Sarri out, you don't know what you're doing." And he made a couple of changes in that game. They win the game 2-1 right at the end. And from that moment on, they've looked a much more vibrant side. As Steve said, they've played with more forward purpose. Callum Hudson-Odoi coming onto the right-hand side. He wants to go past people with the ball. Loftus-Cheek gives them more dynamism in that central midfield area. And that's been the key to it. Passing forward, playing at a higher tempo, more pacey players running with the ball and players that can go past people, as well as Hazard and Hudson-Odoi. And then, of course, you can bring Willian on, who played very well in midweek.
When you had Barkley and Kovacic, it was easier for the opposition to defend against. Yeah. Because neither of them want to go running into the penalty box. Now, with the Loftus-Cheek coming in, you can't, as a full-back for the opposition, you can't stand off the 2 wide guys. That means you're opening holes up in the middle, in the penalty box. And Loftus-Cheek can't wait to get into the penalty box. So now you're adding an extra goal scorer. So they're just a completely different team to play against.
Of course, that can turn in a heartbeat. All this, you know, Robbo mentioned Cardiff, where they got back. I mean, it was a huge slice of luck because the officials were horrendous that day, and that benefited Chelsea big time. So they've taken advantage of that. for the time being. However, their fight for Champions League football's on two fronts, I suppose. You know, Europa League and the Premier League top four, which is going to be tight. However, we know how fickle the business is, and if this Liverpool team absolutely need to put the hammer down. And I think the question is, can this Chelsea midfield, and more importantly, this Chelsea defence, cope with Liverpool?
Yeah.
You know, because if they don't, it could get messy for Chelsea. And all of a sudden, you know, the knives are out for Sarri again. So it's a very fine line for him at the moment.
Seems like Sarri is sticking with Gonzalo Higuain, Robbo. Chelsea's revival happening with Higuain still misfiring, though.
Yeah, he's not playing as well as he can do, but he's still a very clever player. He makes great little runs. He's got a good understanding. One of the reasons that Jorginho is playing slightly better and passing the ball forward is because he's got a good understanding with Higuain. And he will link up the play. Hazard loves to come in field and play little 1-2s. Higuain's good at doing that. He's not scoring goals at the moment, but he is a very good player. He's a clever player so that other players can play off of him at times. And his movement is excellent. Brings defenders short, spins into the box, or doing the other thing. Sometimes he tries to make forward runs, then comes short and lets other players run beyond him. But you can only do that if, as Steve said, you've got players like Loftus-Cheek running beyond him, Hazard running beyond him, Hudson-Odoi running beyond him. That's what they need.
I tell you what, going back to that point that Robbo made, if you've watched Jorginho in the last 3 or 4 games in particular, he's played, if the wide player or the fullback plays a little 10-yard ball into him, every now and again he whips it around the corner, usually over the top. And Higuain, and it's a relationship obviously they had at Napoli for a bit, and Higuain's looking to run off the shoulder of the defenders. I'm sure it's something Liverpool have picked up on, but I've seen him try to do it at least half a dozen times, and a couple of times it's actually came off. So he is looking to play the ball actually a bit more forward and sometimes being a bit more creative.
Let's have a look at what the odds makers tell us about Sunday at Anfield. Liverpool 4-6 on firm favourites. You can get over 3-1 on the draw, over 4-1 on a Chelsea victory. But here's the rub. And Jurgen Klopp has said he's not looking into any history at all in this fixture. Of course, the 2014 game is one he's eager to push aside. But no wins in the last 8 home games for Liverpool against Chelsea in all competitions. 6 in the league, 2 in the League Cup, dating back to 2012. John Joe Shelvey was still playing for Liverpool last time, and he scored last time they beat Chelsea.
Do you know, isn't it amazing how when it's convenient, what happened in the past doesn't count? But the truth is, it doesn't.
No.
And what Liverpool have been doing at home means that, no question, they are favourites. And listen, if Van Dijk was playing centre-back for Chelsea and we had David Luiz, Liverpool, I would be a worried man. But you know what? David Luiz is going to get dragged all over the place by Firmino. So, you know what? Chelsea can go forward. Chelsea can be vibrant. They can create. But this Liverpool side, forget your history. Forget Gerrard. This Liverpool side is a different Liverpool side to the ones in the recent past. This team are going to show Chelsea what it's all about. History
seems to be the only thing psychologically weighing down Liverpool.
Yeah, I saw Klopp touching that, and a little quote for his press conference. He walked in and that was thrown up, and he said, "I hadn't even thought about it."
No, not for one second.
Why would he?
Yeah. Do you think any Liverpoolers are going to be going, "Hey lads, we've not beaten Chelsea"? I don't think so.
Well, the manager won't, and the players won't. The fans. That's a different.
No, the only thing this comes down to is the quality of the starting 11 and the squads. And let's be frank, if Liverpool are on top of the game, they should win this game. Yeah. Maybe Chelsea could nick a draw and give Man City an advantage, but I don't see it. I see Liverpool at home pressurising Chelsea, creating chances and picking holes in a back four that has improved recently. But let's be honest, the standard of the opposition haven't been of a par of Liverpool.
I believe that is 2 for the Reds. Stuart Robson, you're going to make it 3?
I am going to make it 3, but I'm going to go slightly different to what Steve said. I think Firmino will play on, or Jorginho, or play just off of him, and he'll cause him all sorts of problems. He'll pinch the ball off me, he'll run beyond him at times, and Salah will give David Luiz a real problem, breaking in between the fullback and the centre-half. So I still think those 2 players will cause Chelsea lots of problems, and that's why Liverpool win the game.
Liverpool 37 games unbeaten and counting in the Premier League at home. The Premier League fixture is looking like this across the rest of the weekend. Spurs with the early game on Saturday against Huddersfield. course, City have to go to Palace, the early game on Sunday. Remember, they lost at home to Crystal Palace earlier in the season. And Arsenal travel to Vicarage Road to play Watford on Monday.